So if you go on to, in case anybody didn't get that, the question is, what does 1B and what does 2B mean exactly? And what we're doing, the way we're using it is that's just the version of our viewer. Like for example, the current live viewer I think is 1B44. If you go on to staging download, I think the current staging viewer is 230. And what that means for us is that the 1B series of viewers is built using Unity 2017, and the 2B viewers are built using 18. So it's a substantial change in the viewer, and one of the reasons it's taking us so long to make that jump is bringing content forward. Like we discussed, that the issue with the processing servers right now, for example, is taking content backwards, which is a problem right now while we're in transition, but not a long-term problem. Really, our long-term goal is that when you upload content, we always take it forward with us. So Sinespace has been around for a while. You know, we were on Unity 5 for a while, and then we're on Unity, and now we're moving to Unity 18. But Unity makes huge, substantial architectural changes to those things. Like if you take 2017 and 18, one of the big hurdles there was Unity completely changed the structure of prefabs in the editor. Everything about taking objects and bundling them together changed in 2018, not just in the way that you interact with prefabs in 2018. Anybody who's used the two editors will know what I'm talking about. The prefabs are handled differently in the editor, but also they're packaged differently. The structure of those files is different, and the way they reach out and connect to other files is different. That's just one of the huge. And we have a policy that, you know, if you upload something to our platform, it works. And the vagaries of it working on the different Unities is not your problem. So we want to make sure that when we do make the jump to Unity 2018, we bring all of the Unity 2017 content with it, and that's not something that creators have to deal with. We don't want creators to have to go, oh, I uploaded this on the 1B series viewers, and now they've gone to the 2B viewers, and my content doesn't work anymore. That's not a stable plan. That's not good for us. It's not good for creators. Just waste of time. So a large part of the reason that we lag behind the official Unity engine releases is because we're doing the work that Unity's not in making sure that that content is cross-engine compatible and bringing it forward automatically and reprocessing it automatically so creators don't have to. That's one of the big hurdles there. But yeah, when we're talking about the 1B viewers, that's Unity 2017. 2B viewers is Unity 2018. And that's just why the 2B viewers are taking so long to get out. It's just because it's such a huge change, replacing the entire underlying engine with a complete version of Unity. Does that help clear that up?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. That's crystal clear now.
Yeah. There's a lot of terminology and stuff that goes back and forth, and yeah, I understand it's easy to get lost in that. And that's one of the reasons that, like I said, we want to simplify that process for creators, so creators don't have to worry about, you know, oh, all the prefabs changed. You know, we want you to be able to, if you want to work in the Unity 2017 editor, do that and upload content, and it'll work. Work in Unity 2018 editor, do that and it'll work. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that's above and beyond just, oh, the viewer is now Unity 2018. So all of our processing servers have to change. You know, a whole bunch of stuff has to be upgraded along with it. And then we run into issues where, like I said, we have a direct connection with Unity, and we're like, Unity, there's this problem that you have to fix because it's part of Unity, not part of Sinespace. And there's a lot of back and forth that goes there on that. Okay, Cub says he would literally sell his soul to the devil to be able to hear voice. Well, that's something I will have to help him sort out afterwards, because he can't hear me right now. So let's see, other questions. Do we have any other questions coming in live, or I'm going to pick some more questions off of our pre-selected list from the forums here. I'm not seeing anything really come up, so I'm just going to grab a couple other things. There's some question regarding change logs for the viewers. Someone noted that they weren't actually able to discern immediately what the difference was, for example, between 2B28 and 2B30. Yeah, I agree that we're not doing a great job of communicating exactly what happens on those changes, and that's more important on the release viewers than it is on the development viewers. But I also agree that it would be very useful for us to have a better way of communicating those change logs, because between any given viewer, there's often, a 2B28 and 2B30 probably has hundreds of commits to the code base that's different between it. Some of those are going to be bug fixes, crash fixes, optimizations, and they may not be immediately obvious, especially if it's a niche case that only happens, like one specific person is experiencing a crash in a particular situation, and we fix that. Nobody else is going to notice that, and it's good that we fixed it. It's good that person can now do it, but everybody else is going, okay, what changed? And so it would be useful to better communicate those change logs. We do have some auto change log happening for the editor pack specifically, but that's also a little bit underrepresented, let's say, as the way those change logs currently happen when the editor pack gets dumped into Discord is that it only shows the changes since the last build attempt, and oftentimes we will go to build an editor pack, or we're like, it's got all these changes in it, we should push those changes out. We hit build, the build fails. There was a bug, something didn't quite happen right. So we upload a fix for that build failure and rebuild it. We get a successful build out of it. Unfortunately, the way that our current build software handles that is the only change that it reports is the one between the failed build and the successful build, because that was the most recent build attempt. That's something we're looking into, whether we can we can better specify, no, I want you to report the changes going back to a date rather than a build, because oftentimes those fixes that we put in there don't even have a tag on them. So when it goes to Discord, it just shows up as one internal fix, and you're like, oh, well, that's not exciting, even if that editor pack may have a ton of new features in it, because the most recent build was just a commit to fix the last build. Then you don't see that, and that's really not useful at all. So both in terms of the editor pack and the viewer, we really like to get either better auto reporting of the changes. We might set up a script so that we can on a script that says from this date range to this date range, generate an automated change log that we can post up. That's something that we can manually, like maybe once a week, or whatever seems appropriate in terms of that. But yeah, change logs are conspicuously absent, I agree, and when they are there, they're often very misleading, and so they might as well not be there, and that's something we absolutely need to fix. So it looks like we got the Twitch stream up, so at least part of this will be streamed if you are just joining us. The rest of it will be recorded, and we will hopefully get a recording up. Should you update your editor pack every update, or just big updates? It depends. On the Discord, we have a channel that I don't think everyone can see. It's something that we have to. I think we have to grant you a specific Discord role in order to see. There is a nightlies and an alpha publishing branch where every time we make an editor pack, then it goes up on Discord and you can get access to it. We do not recommend you actually pull every nightly editor pack unless you specifically need a feature that we specifically added for you in that editor pack, then yeah, by all means, grab it and test it. Um, in general, that's also a good philosophy. If the project that you're working on doesn't need a newer editor pack, there's probably not a reason to get one. The editor packs do include bug fixes and things of that nature, but if none of the stuff that you are working on for that project is encountering bugs, there's not really any incentive for you to update your editor pack. I wouldn't lag too far behind. You know, if it's been months since you updated your editor pack, maybe go see if there's a new one. But in general, if it works, it works. Just keep doing it. And then if it doesn't work, try the latest editor pack. If it still doesn't work, let us know, because obviously that's an ongoing bug. And if you need a new feature for something, if you need a new component or a new scripting function or whatever, and we add that for you specifically, then you'll have to update for that. But takeaway from that is, if it works, it works. You don't have to update it. And I appreciate all of the hard work that SiteArm is doing here to do live transcription of this for the people who aren't hearing voice. That is really appreciated. And people who aren't hearing voice, we will try and sort that out for you after the office hours here. It's going to be a sound configuration issue on your computer, and that can be frustrating. Because there's, especially like Windows 10, there's like 4 different places where those settings can be changed in the OS alone. But we'll figure that out for you. Let's see. Yeah, and as Delome points out, the ones that are on the Unity Asset Store are considered release editor packs. Like, if you want to play it safe, there's no harm in updating to those. There's no requirement if you don't need what's in them, but there's no harm in updating to those. The nightlies, we do recommend that unless you actually need them, don't be on the bleeding edge, because that's just like the 2B viewers, the staging viewers, the preview viewers. Those are often works in progress. They have brand new features. They might not be completely debugged, but if it's on the one from the Unity Asset Store, is safe. Download it. Update it as often or as little as you like if you need features from it. Do we have any questions coming from live? Otherwise, I've still got tons of questions here, which is great. I love that everybody submitted questions on the forum ahead of time. These makes these office hours much more productive and useful. So we're going to try and do that every week that we have office hours, and questions can carry over from week to week to get to them. So that's definitely something I'd like to continue. Office hours. There are 3 questions live in chat. I don't see them. So okay. Is it a good idea to stick with 2018 LTS for development? We do encourage everyone, if you're starting a new project, there's no reason not to use 2018 at this point. You can still use 2017 as well, and we're not taking that away. The 2017 viewers are going away, but the 2017 editors are still going to be supported. And again, that's not going to, the 2017 viewers are not going to go away until 2018 is fully vetted and released. We do recommend that you go with the LTS versions of both of those. There are other versions. There's 2018 2 and 3 and 4. We definitely recommend 4. There's been a number of cases where I've run into people running the 0.2 or the 0.3 release of an editor and having problems, and updating to the 0.4 release solved it. And that makes sense, because the way Unity numbers their versions is the odd versions especially are work in progress. They're not they're kind of like our staging or 2B viewers are right now. Those are experimental versions. The even numbers are the ones where you get okay, this is a released viewer, this is supposed to be stable, this is supposed to be relatively bug-free, and there's no reason, I mean, and there's no reason to stay on an old version like 2017.2 or 20. Those were previous stable versions. They went on to 20.3 and 0.4, and there's no reason to stay on those old versions, and those old versions don't get fixes that the new versions do. So absolutely, we recommend LTS. We do recommend you stay on the 0.4 branches if possible. And unless there's a specific reason to do it or you just don't like it, 2018.4 is what we're recommending people download at the moment. You can convert your projects away from 2017 if you have existing projects. You don't have to. You can continue those, or you can upgrade them. That's your choice. Typically, once you upgrade them, you can't go back though. So if you're new to 2018 and you're more familiar with 2017, I would recommend starting a new project in 2018, getting familiar with it before you take the step of porting any of your older projects to the new version, just because there are some changes both in the way it's handled, way it handles some, and the way the user interface works, and comfortable with that before you make a migration. Letting Sidearm catch up a little bit here, and looking for other questions. If there are live questions in the chat that I'm missing, feel free to ask them again. Because I may not see them as the chat scrolls by, especially with the live transcription going on. Let's see, what else do we got here? Some things that we're, just kind of touch on a couple things that we're actively working on this week. Know that there has been some long-standing bugs in regards to the way seats and gestures work, and that's something that we are putting a focus on right now. I know there's a lot of bugs that have been around in the seats for years in some cases, and some of them I'm only just now being alerted to myself as I come across them in other situations. We probably do better about organizing all the bug reports that come in, and that's something that we're looking at as well. But the seats themselves, in addition to fixing some bugs, we'd like to build in some new behavior to them to make things easier for creators, and especially easier to create more interactive content. One of the things we experimented about recently, just from using Lua, was the ability to, like, you sit down and you get a selection of sort of built-in gestures to the seat that you can use: clapping, cheering, making your fist, that kind of thing. And in the stuff that we were experimenting around with that, just the user feedback that we were able to get during that event from users, just having those, oh yeah, cheer, and just having that as a built-in part of the seat, really changed the whole feeling of the experience of doing those events. So we could and might still just publish that Lua script to a public script repo on GitHub. That'd be useful for people who are looking to do something more advanced or simply looking to learn. But we were also discussing it probably makes sense just to have that as a built-in part of the chair, or something. When you're building a furniture item or something that can be sat on, you just drag and drop any number of animations into it, and just have those go up with the chair and be something that the users can tap into. Likewise, the option to have more than just one animation on there, the ability to okay, this chair has 5 animations on it, and I'll pick one rather than just being stuck with whatever one is on there. We really want to boost up some of the features on that core component at the same time as we're addressing some of the bugs of it. We know there's bugs around if you sit down and somebody joins the region, that new person may not necessarily see you sitting. That's true of gestures also. If you start a dance, and new people join the region, they may not necessarily see that people are dancing because they weren't around when that gesture was activated. These should not be hard things to fix. There should be things that are pretty fundamental. They're bugs that have been around for a while, far longer than they should have. We fully acknowledge that. That's something that we part of what's going into the 2B viewer is us sitting down and going, okay, these core issues, chairs not working right, gestures not being reliable, even two-person gestures looking at as well. This is important for us to fix in the next viewer. Like if we can push out all the crazy new cool features we want, but if these core components aren't reliable and enjoyable and useful, then the rest of it doesn't really matter. And we fully understand that. And that's like I said, that's one of the reasons that the 2B viewer is taking so long is that we are we're really committed to getting some of these long-standing daily frustrations ironed out before we say this is our next release viewer. Like we want our next release viewer to be a really solid experience, and it's bumpy along the way there. But we're hoping it'll be worth it when we get there. And the seats and the gestures is something that we're hoping to have fixed this week or early next week. It's been a heavy focus this week. A great deal of Adam's time has been in crashing and performance issues. He's made some significant strides there, especially for some very specific issues. We have some of our own staff members as well as some of our users who are experiencing serious freezing problems in the viewers. It's not universal, which makes it frustrating to track down. But we've been building like 2 or 3 new viewers a day that don't go out to staging grid, so it's not obvious. But we are just churning out viewers internally with testing features enabled, with development features enabled, logging, testing fixes, testing problems, and those are being run internally, especially by our staff members who are having those specific problems, and we really want to knock those out. But it's a time-consuming debug process. Tia asks, so I'd love to close some of the chat tabs that I don't look at. Is that a possibility, like new user? I think you currently can close them. There's been some discussion around the UI on that. Obviously, you can close new tabs that you created, like with specific people. In some versions of the viewer, if you click on the X that is on the main chat window, not on a tab, but the X that's part of the window, that actually closes the currently selected tab. That's something that we're working as like that's not a great solution, and some of those tabs are hard to get back once you do close them. So we're actually addressing both of those issues right now. There's also some other chat related issues that are being addressed. One of our developers that's his whole focus right now is continuing work on the chat system. So yeah, we will look at again the issue with closing a tab like new user is if you close it, how do you get it back if you want it? If you change your mind and you want that open again, we need to have an intuitive way to bring those tabs back once they're closed. And so it's not just a simple matter of, oh yeah, get rid of this tab. It's like, wait, I didn't mean to do that. Where is it? How do I get it back? Especially for a new user who accidentally closes that tab, and then they're like, oh well, now I have a question and there's no new user tab for me to ask it on. So that is something we're looking at, and yeah, we do want some general improvements, the chat system and the way the tabs are handled on that. Mimi says, I'd rather be able to color text and name tags. White is hard to read. Yeah, that's part of a larger discussion that we're having around just giving users more control over the colors of everything in general. So some ability to customize. I don't want blue buttons and blue windows. I want them to be some other color, dark gray or or whatever, and I don't want my buttons to be bright fuchsia. I want them to be something else, and so the ability to change all of this stuff is built into the code base. We just need to build a user interface for it, and that is definitely something we want to have. And along with that is some kind of like official dark mode switch, so you can switch back and forth like the bright poppy colors and on something that's a little bit easier to read at night when you've got the lights off. Chat still freezing up. Yeah, that's well, on the 1B viewers especially, that's a known problem. On the 2B viewers, chat performance has improved drastically, but there are still some issues there. And I know there's some issues around the refocus. There's some issues on the current viewer that I'm experiencing right now, where depending on size of the chat window, the last 2 or 3 lines of chat are invisible until they get pushed up, and you can see them higher up in the chat log. That's being looked at right now. Actually, we were looking at it. Our Shanghai developers were looking at that last night. So that, yeah, we know there's still some issues around the chat. That's something that we're working on dialing in. A C# Sinespace viewer direct interface. Yeah, if you wanna get your own white label grid, come talk to me, and we'll do we do for our white label grids. We do allow C# on non-public grids, and we build custom viewers for those as well to do whatever those grids want them to do. So yeah, not on the main grid though. I think somebody's messaging me a question directly. Will Sinespace be uploaded to Steam or the Epic Game Store for release or an EA release? There's not really a lot of promo out there for this yet, so I'm asking. Oculus Store would also be nice. We're not going to be on the EA Store. We're probably not going to put the public grid necessarily on Steam or Epic or something like that. It doesn't really necessarily make any sense for us to do that, although we might look into it. There are some specific projects, some specific like sub-projects that are on their own grid that we're looking at putting on the Steam store. You are right that there has not been a lot of promo out there yet, and that's just because we're not ready. We do have a launch plan that we're pursuing. We have a set series of features and a certain level of stability that we're aiming for with the 2B series viewers. And once those viewers reach that level of maturity that we're happy with, and we can push those to the public grid, we can say this is our live viewer, then you will absolutely see a ton more promotion happen. We've got a whole plan on that, but we can't go into too much detail about it right now. But you will see a lot of promotion once we're ready. Let's see here. Got people messaging me on Skype at the same time, so back and forth here. I wasn't mocking. I was just saying if you want C# support, then that's an entirely separate discussion. Yeah, so we're on the hour here, but I know we started late, so I'm just gonna go ahead here with a few more since we have time anyway. I don't have anything immediately following this, so let's see some other questions that I've gotten in here. Trello roadmap out of date. Yep, we know. That is a broad guideline, not a up to the moment accurate depiction of what's currently going on. Again, that's something that we can do a better job of communicating, and I would like to see more of that. Shop in world, gifting things to users, very good question. Um, our shop does miss a lot of basic features, and that's something that we're working on addressing right now. There's a variety of things going on with regards to the shop. People using the 2B viewers will have noticed that we added a shopping cart finally, which is nice. Again, basic, long time coming, but it's there now. Gifting items directly to users from the shop is something we also like to do. Pretty obvious functionality. Again, long time coming. Something we probably should have prioritized before now, but there's a lot of infrastructure in place for that kind of thing, and a lot of things that took priority over it with limited amounts of man hours. Things had to be deprioritized or reprioritized based on what seemed most important at the time. And I understand that can be frustrating if you're waiting for a specific feature, and we decide that, sorry, something else is higher priority, we need to fix that first, and so the feature you were waiting for gets moved whatever down the road. Super frustrating, I absolutely understand. Unfortunately, we do have a limited number of man hours, and that is also something we are trying to fix. We've hired several new developers recently, so and we are looking to hire more. There's some more permanent positions that have gone out recently, especially in regards to if you're on Facebook, you might have seen Adam posting about like working for a community manager and some other teams of that nature. And so one of the things those positions would is not just better coordinating events like this and reaching out to people, but also better managing our messaging of new features, managing our messaging, our documentation, that kind of thing. So we are hiring both developers and non-developers to try and address some of these areas where we are short-staffed to properly keep up with at the moment. Will the new terrain stuff coming out support nav mesh? I assume you're referring to the mainland voxel terrain system that we're working on. It's going to need to. I can't tell you whether it does at the moment, but if it comes out and we don't have the ability to properly we don't have nav mesh support for it, it's going to really limit what can be done on there. So it does need that support, and that's something we will make sure it has. Again, I can't tell you whether it has that at the moment, because our focus for the terrain system at the moment is on some basic functionality that is being plagued by a bug that has tied our developers up in knots for weeks and is frustrating all of us. And hopefully we're close to cracking that. And when that gets finished, then you'll probably start to see some live public testing of that voxel terrain. Some more regions set up where we can play with it, where we can show people what's going on with it, and where we can check if there's any basic supports like nav mesh and stuff that doesn't work properly on it and address it if so. Yeah, because if we don't have nav mesh, then things like the quest system doesn't work properly, and NPCs can't pathfind on the mainland, on those voxel terrain correctly, and those are just too huge that simply leave behind. Yeah, and part of the reason we're heavily focused on the mainland system is that's something we do. That's part of our launch list for the 2B viewers. We want to have that ability to have mainlands and voxel terrain in there. So sometimes it's not obvious what's going on with the 2B viewer. There's a lot of work going on behind it, and a lot of it is for features that are in there but may not be obvious because we haven't exposed those to the general users downloading them. And again, this just goes back to our messaging of what comes out with those viewers. Is there's often a lot of work that goes on in those viewers that isn't immediately obvious, and that is something that I would like to do better at. Yeah, and I'm not putting dates on any of those things, just so we're clear. Um, we are working as fast as we can on all of these things. We're hiring new developers. Um, and, we would love it if the voxel terrain came out tomorrow, but I can't promise you that it's going to. It comes out when it's fixed and when it's ready. And I realize that there's that inherent vagueness is frustrating. It's frustrating for us too. Trust us, we would love to have a a big checklist of items with dates on them and be like, oh, tomorrow we're doing that, and then on Thursday we're doing that, and Friday we'll solve that problem. Unfortunately, development doesn't really follow a nice predictable path like that sometimes. Like I said, this terrain bug, we've been looking at for weeks. We thought it would be a few days to fix it. It's turned into a big hairy issue. Sometimes we get interrupted with, like, oh, we planned to do X today, but a new higher priority bug has come up, and so we have to switch gears and we have to work on that. So we do have some internal roadmaps. We try to make predictions about what any given developer will be working on any given week. When we kind of expect features to hopefully be viable or finished or ready to show. But those dates are very fluid and very much subject to change, sometimes on a daily basis, as we adapt to new information coming in, new bugs that get discovered, problems that took longer or features that took longer to implement than we thought they were going to. It's just not something we can just sit down and publish a schedule that says, yeah, you can expect this next week and that the week after. It's just not practical for us to do. That would just be more frustrating for everybody than it is useful, because we would be forever saying, okay, you're going to have this feature on Friday, and then missing it, and then because something else came up, and that would just be really irritating for everybody. It'd be irritating for us. It'd be disappointing for you. We don't want to put everybody in that situation. Things come out when they're ready. I can't give you fixed dates on most things. There was a question regarding whether you could, on the higher subscription levels, whether you could pool region sizes into, like, if you had 3 regions at 512, can you instead make one 1.5 gigabyte region? I see your question. I can't answer at the moment. At the moment, that's not how it works. Whether that's something we're going to allow in the future once voxel terrain and everything is in, that's the discussion that we haven't had, so I can't give you an answer on that. I do acknowledge that the question has been asked and that we will talk about it, but I can't give you anything more on that at the moment. Cub wants an update on camera customization updates. Well, this is actually a good time to bring that up, because this is one of those things we hoped to actually have camera updates in by now, but the developer tasked with doing those camera updates is the same developer that's been working on the voxel terrain bugs, and that took way longer than we expected, which means the camera updates got pushed back because everybody's busy with something else, and something took way longer than we expected in order to get to that point where they were ready to move on to a new task. We're hoping that's not going to take much longer. The camera updates, once they get started, take very long, and I understand that sounds like I'm contradicting myself there, but the camera updates are a relatively straightforward thing. It's not a new technology. It's simply updating the existing technology that's there, updating the conditions by which certain camera modes are activated, things like that. Adding settings is not a big deal. Obviously, we can do settings. It's just the issue is that's on the task list of somebody who currently has higher priority tasks, and tasks that took way longer than we expected. So yeah, we wanted to have the camera updates done already. They are not. They are planned, and we're hoping to get to them very soon. Again, I cannot put an exact date on that. And this is again why we don't publish a dated roadmap for people to see, because those dates are just so fungible. And speaking of things that are being worked on, though, we are actively working on the update to the clothing system that is currently in progress. That developer is doing some other things intermittently, but they are at the moment working on that as well. That's a clothing system, not closing system. There, that is, yeah. The updates that a lot of people have been requesting regarding being able to have multiple material options on clothing rather than having to make strict variants. That is in works right now. Space Navigator support. Yeah, me too. That's actually one of the things that we're looking at as far as the camera support. I have a Space Navigator that I bought when the Space Navigators first came out. That must be what, like 15 years ago now. And I love it. I love the fluid, smooth, cinematic motion of it, of being able to, and the roll axis being broken is driving me nuts too. I'm completely there with you. So that is something that's on the list of camera bug fixes. But again, that developer had to delay that task due to being on another higher priority task. But when we get to the camera stuff, absolutely, I want the Space Navigator fixed as well. Yes, the Space Mouse absolutely is crucial for Sinespace to live up to its potential for machinima, especially to be able to make videos and that sort of artistic thing on Sinespace. There's so much potential there, but without the proper ability to control your camera, that potential is severely limited, severely kind of artificially cropped off. And so, yeah, that's one of the things that we're looking at for, like I said, the camera system. Absolutely, I want that fixed as well. Let's see. Is there any other questions on here? If I'm missing any questions, the live chat again, feel free to repeat them or to message me directly. I'll see if a new tab pops up, whereas I might get lost in the scroll back of the chat windows. Um, also, I would like to make a note of. Sorry, I'm getting tired of typing here. We'll be almost done in a second. I just wanted to make a note of. There's been some like last week we discussed that there were some performance improvements um, in the 2B viewer, and some people weren't quite sure where those performance improvements manifested, or why they weren't personally experiencing them. There is some of those performance improvements um, will happen over time. They're starting now, and one example of that is that we are a large part of the loading lag that happens, especially with avatars coming in, is down to Unity's default shader. that gets used on the vast majority of content, clothing, furniture, most things in regions, unless specifically unless specifically changed otherwise. A lot of content is using the default Unity shader as a very expensive shader to load and run, and so we are making some seamless substitutes that will look the same but run much faster, and that happens automatically in processing. The issue is you won't see the performance gains from that immediately. The performance gains from that will happen increasingly over time as we reprocess older content through our system again, take advantage of that swap out happening. So a lot of the stuff that we're working on may not be immediately obvious, but pays long-term dividends in performance. And that is something that we are very conscious of going forward is we want to grow. We want to be much bigger than we are now. We want to have so much content on the platform. And we have systems in place right now where we are actively loading a lot of content into the platform. All of you are putting content into the platform. There's content coming in from directions, and so it needs to be scalable. And so a lot of the changes that we're making are in regards to long-term scalability and maintaining performance and increasing performance over time as we do grow. And so, yeah, if you download 2B28 and then compare it to 2B30, a lot of the performance issues don't still see the same, but will get better over time as some of these features take hold of the existing content. And I think it's time we give Sidearms a break. So we're 20 minutes after here. I apologize for starting late. Hopefully we'll avoid that in the future. We'll try and get into a more robust groove here with having things set up ahead of time so we can start on time. I do apologize for that. But hopefully this will continue to be useful week after week. Like I said, we are not doing this next week because I will be out of town. But we will pick up again the week afterwards. And hopefully after 2 weeks, we'll have a lot to talk about. And hopefully some of these problems will have gone away. And we'll be very excited about that. So thank you everyone for your time. And I'll see you back here in 2 weeks. And if you have problems in the meantime, you can of course reach out to our staff. And do continue to keep an eye on the forums where we will have threads where you can submit questions ahead of time. So even if you can't make it, then we'll still get some questions answered. Thank you everybody, and I'm logging off now.